Kia ora and welcome to the Niggly Niche Cast. I am the Diggity Doodah Doc, and as always, I am joined by the Wobbly Wildcard. We are here today to bang out a little preview podcast of the Football Ferns Women's World Cup campaign with Aotearoa's leading football correspondent, whether it's Wellington Phoenix, whether it's domestic footy, women's footy, Premier League footy, however you want your footy, the best man to go to is the Wobbly Wildcard with those wobbly knees wobbling all over the show. Wildcard, what did you have for dinner last night?
For dinner last night? I believe homemade hamburgers, if I do recall. Sloshed down with a good old, with a nice cold beer.
How many hamburgers does the Wobbly Wildcard get through?
Oh, I believe it was just the one yesterday. From what I recall, I've been known to get a little bit frisky and bury a couple of them in one go.
To me, having two wouldn't be described as frisky.
No, well, I guess we differ there. I don't know. I did have the what do you call them? The like deluxe size patty things. So, you know, it goes down pretty filling, those ones.
Yeah, clogging the arteries with the meat there.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I try to stay on top of my my red meat intake. It's not the healthiest for the individual, nor indeed for the environment. I actually read the other day that apparently if we cut out like red meat, the red meat industry is doing more damage to the environment than like petroleum and some other one. I forget what the other one was. But like the things that people expect are doing damage, it's actually like industrial farming is doing every bit as much as these other things. So yeah.
We do have a fair amount of cows in New Zealand as well.
We have too many cows. It's one of those things where we have like one of them, growth economies where we think it's more is the only way to keep growing, as opposed to coming up with like a sustainable model which works with a certain amount of cows on a certain amount of land, and then just like maximize your efficiency, your sustainability. I believe it's scientifically proven, economically proven that works in a better scale, but people just want to keep going bigger and bigger and bigger because, America forcing it on everyone else.
At the Niche Case, we are not vegan or vegetarian. Let's make that loud and clear. We do enjoy a bit of carne, a bit of pollo, but we also do enjoy our planet. And yeah,
yes,
that's an important differentiate. Everything in moderation, as they always tend to say, and that's probably the best piece of logical, common sense advice that you can hear via the Niche Cast. Wildcard. We have to talk Football Ferns because it's been a long road with the Football Ferns. We've been through a lot of bullshit, and does it, on a broad scale, bigger picture thinking here with this World Cup, does it feel like to you that there is... Well, the World Cup is the light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know what that light is going to be necessarily, but do you think that like the pain and the weirdness and the bullshit was worth it to get to this point where we're going into a Women's World Cup reasonably excited about the Football Ferns' chances of performing at this World Cup?
Yeah, now, I mean, worth it is I don't know that it's worth it, because like what happened is, a coach got fired for institutionalized bullying effectively, and I don't know that in particular is worth it, but there's certainly like positives to have come out of it. There's wake up calls, just the entirety of the last year, maybe even almost 2 years with that team has just been a situation where like they had a good team, they had a solid team, a lot of veteran players coming into their like primes of their careers, and they were poised to do something really good and really pretty extraordinary at a major tournament at some point, and they just hadn't to date been able to really do that. And it was a matter of like, can they balance the the good vibes around the team with increased expectation of performance and accountability of results and all this. And when Tony Reddings left, it was an opportunity to do that, because Tony Reddings always seemed like a top-notch manager in terms of like the personal relationships he can get out of his players, the team chemistry, that kind of thing. But tactically, it just felt like they weren't living up to their potential. So they bring in Andreas Haraf, who was very obviously like the opposite of that. And he was going to be a taskmaster and really drive performance and whatever like that. But he just fell out with every single one of the players to where they refused to play with him because he just had no idea. Like, you can't have one without the other in those things. You can't have like one extreme. You have to have a balance of being able to relate to your players and get the best out of them at the same time. And you're seeing with old Tommy Samani at the moment that it's possible to do both of those things better than it is to do either one of those things individually anyway. Like, he's come in, just restored the good feeling around the squad, and is also getting good results and seeing some pretty impressive like sort of tactical shapes and like little twists and turns there, which we'll probably come back to in a sec. But like, yeah, I think just all that the Ferns had to go through, and it's not just with the coach, it's also with New Zealand football. Remember when Abby Erceg retired that first time? Then they came out with this whole like, we've got equal financial whatevers for the All Whites and for the football Ferns now. And it was a little bit of a PR cop-out, to be honest, because they really did was increase the travel funds, because they already had the same per diems and stuff like that. And none of that is like excessive, and that also isn't covering the fact that it's those players just below, like on the fringes of the Ferns, that were the ones that were in the most trouble, because they were having to like, in order to push for that national team, they were having to uproot their lives and come live in Auckland, and then they were having to train hours that make it pretty difficult to hold like a day job, but then they also had to have a day job because they're living in another city. And they've gotten better with this with the Football Ferns development program thing, so I think that's been improvement. But yeah, even that the supposed increased funds to the Ferns, they're just I've heard rumors they're just taking those extra travel costs out of other things, so there's not like there's any more money going into the team. They're just shifting funds, and this is pretty typical of the old Andy Martin days. So like, that's not even solved yet. New Zealand football is still in an absolute state because they've only got all these temporary people all over, and they're waiting until very recently they sort of had a shake up on the board, so until that was done they weren't going to be able to make permanent appointments in those key roles, so the whole thing's just been in limbo, and it's been a bit of a wreck. But the Ferns under Tom Samani have at least they've organised some great games for them, and they're on a pretty solid program. And Samani said all along that they're struggling for time, and that's another one of the factors that they've had to deal with from the fallout of everything they've had to deal with lately. Another one, just they're on such a short time frame compared to everyone else, and I don't know, I think in a way it has galvanised them, and there are certainly big positives that we're seeing from that. And getting Tom Samani, and I don't know that would have been something that would have happened if they hadn't had like a shake-up beforehand, like a big old wake-up call. But yeah, I don't know, there's stuff that they should never have had to go through. We shouldn't have had to get to this point through the way we got there, but we are at least at a point now where the Ferns are looking positive and entertaining and pretty bloody promising ahead of the World Cup, to be honest. I think there's a very good chance that they can do something there.
I can tell you for sure, Wildcard, whether it's in a sporting context or even just in a life context, the chances of reaching that point of everything being honky-dory or better than it could ever have been only comes from going through the bullshit. So it just seems like it is mandatory to go through the bullshit and then get out on the other side with, like, no one, I'm not a football extraordinaire like yourself, so I don't really know much about this Tom Samani dude, but his credentials seem pretty credible. Those credible credentials are only in place because, as you said, there are a few twists and turns that weren't ideal, but if you don't go through those twists and turns and that bullshit, you don't get to the point where you've got a coach like Tom Samani leading the football Ferns. At a time as well, just again on the bigger picture, you mentioned the money aspect of the football Ferns, but am I correct in an observation that now more than ever there are more opportunities around the world for these athletes to earn a decent living playing overseas, which may have little to do with the football Ferns itself as a team, as a collective, but now we just have more professional women's football players and coming together under the football Ferns umbrella. So does that, like the arrival of Tom Samani after all the bullshit, coincide with more professional opportunities for these women athletes, female athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. The development program that they set up has definitely pushed a few extra players into professional ranks. That's one of the main sort of goals of that whole program, is to get players playing professionally overseas. Which, I mean, it's got to be overseas until we get a Wellington Phoenix women's team, but I don't know that that's on the cards anytime soon. Especially while the Phoenix as a general are in a general context, though, still very much in the trenches in terms of fighting for their own survival down the line. But so that's a bit of a pipe dream. But yeah, there's definitely more and more players getting professional opportunities, and not just at any old clubs, but at big clubs as well. And it's just catching on to this worldwide trend, especially in Europe, and I would say, I think we should probably say especially in America as well. America is the league in America, the National Women's Soccer League as they call it, is as good as any other division in the world. Although I think the English Super League within a year or two is going to be, like the best on planet Earth for women's football. It's not going to be very long until that one surpasses it. It's been a bit ignored for a while, and just like recently we're really seeing some of these massive clubs getting involved, and Manchester United started up theirs this year. Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea, those three teams are all just like do huge backing in terms of giving their women's team opportunities and stuff, and we're seeing massive success from those teams. So yeah, there's absolutely more opportunities, and that's on an upward curve as well. That's only going to continue as more money gets invested in them from clubs, but also from sponsorship, as exposure grows, as fan numbers grow and stuff like that. We're already seeing pretty decent crowds at a lot of these games around Europe and America, so it's only going in one direction. And to be honest, this has been a trend going for a few years, so it's not like it's since Tom Samani came along that all of a sudden more players are becoming professional. They were already before him, even in the latter, last few years of Tony Reddings. I think that's when we really started to see this, but definitely that's helping the Ferns, because it might not be like, and it's a complication in terms of getting players back for international duty, which will start rearing its head eventually, but, better players, professional players make better players make a better national team. It's, simple as that, Doc.
Rightio. So with this football Ferns team, lead me into some details, hard and fast, about I'll ask you the questions. Who are some key players for the football Ferns, and what is their impact on this football Ferns team?
Number one on that list, and it's not even really close, even though this team does have a massive and influential senior leadership group kind of thing, just a bunch of players who have played like 100 cats, been around for ages. But number one on the most important scale is Abby Erceg. And Abby Erceg obviously had her issues with dealing with New Zealand football, then dealing with Andreas Haraf. For a while, wasn't involved in the program for a little while at the, because of that. And as that was going on, became a bit of a household name in New Zealand because of that stance. full support of all her teammates, by the way. Like, it wasn't ever a controversial thing. It was a matter of just like getting the Ferns to a point where they can, be their best team. And hopefully we're at that point now, and she's back and she's playing. But while that was all happening, she was captaining the North Carolina Courage in the NWSL in America. Not just captaining them, but captaining them to the 2018 championship. Not only the championship, but an absolute record-breaking season, like probably the best team season that has ever, been seen in that incarnation of that league. I think they had a record points total, record number of wins, record goal difference, and at the same time, Abby Erceg is captaining them and winning Defensive Player of the Year for the entire competition. So it's very, very safe to say that she is a world-class defender. And just having her back in the football Ferns, it makes all the difference, because you've got that leader at the back, you've got that person who's going to make those desperate, like even just in the game against Norway the other day, you saw early on Norway, the Ferns were trying to throw a bit of pressure with the press, and that was leaving them a little bit exposed now and then, especially with the way they were trying to play out from the back as well. And just several times you saw Abby Erceg just step up, win a crucial header, or step across, slide in, make a block, just like ending a defensive move, clearing that ball before anything can happen. Just those little moments where she's just a class above. And that, we've already seen what a difference that can make at a World Cup. If you look at the All Whites in 2010, having Ryan Nelson at the top of his game, that's the impact that Abby Erceg can have on this Football Ferns team. So that's that right there. You've also got, I think in Erin Naylor, we've got an extremely good goalkeeper, which is always essential at a major tournament. Ellie Riley, captain, left back, but probably going to be left wing back the way they looked against Norway. They played with a back three there, so I think that's probably to the advantage, actually. I quite like that little twist from Samani there, and that's going to give Ellie Riley, she's already an excellent defensive left back, but where she really thrives is when she's able to get forward and swing in crosses and take on defenders and stuff and get down to the line, cut that ball back, those kind of things. In that shape, she's going to have more room to do that. Excellent left foot, so is going to be one of the focal points of the team there. And I think also there's quite a important role going to be left on the midfield at the World Cup, and Rhea Percival is probably first and foremost in that. Always been a right back for New Zealand, but has often played. I know she played centre mid a lot when she was at Basel. She's now playing for West Ham, which is mostly a right back again, but has played midfield on occasion when needed to there. For the Ferns, she's pretty much, we got a lot of right backs. CJ Bott scored that stunner of a goal against Argentina at the Cup of Nations a few weeks back. She's a good bet to start at right back at the World Cup, so frees up Rhea Percival to play in central midfield, where you've got a real proper tenacious midfielder, not gonna hold back from any challenge, really gonna set a standard in that midfield, which is pretty crucial. There's also a question of who's going to score the goals, and that is always going to be a trick for any New Zealand team at any World Cup. Who's going to score the goals? Well, I can't really answer that right now, but I guess if you throw out names like Rosie Whites, for example, that's probably your best bet. Sarah Gregorius, if she's starting or if she's coming off the bench, another option there. There's they're not going to be a team that's going to sweep anyone away 3 or 4-0, but score that odd goal, defend valiantly, get that 1-0 win exactly like they just did against Norway would be, perfectly descriptive there.
Put a nice little bow on this wildcard. How would you sum up your feelings, your vibe from this Footy Ferns team, and what should we as Kiwi sports fans hope for and expect from the Ferns at the World Cup? Is there dark horse potential? Should we just be content with a solid knockout kind of stage performance? Should we hope for just a revolutionary type of craziness from the Football Ferns? How are you feeling about this team at the World Cup?
Well, I remember at the last World Cup, they had a relatively decent group, not still a tough group. They had, I think China might have been hosting it, and they, we had China in our group anyway. We had Netherlands in our group. We had Canada in our group. One of them was the hosts, and I'm mind blanking right now early in the morning to think who it was. But, there's a possibility there that they could well have made the next round, and they just weren't able to score that spare goal, weren't able to sneak through with like a 1-0, 2-1 victory in any of those games that was going to see them through. And it was a bit disappointing, to be honest, and I think they were better than that, and they just didn't quite live up to the potential. And it's been the case at most World Cups. They have won games at Olympics before. They did once make I think London 2012, they made the knockouts of the Olympics, and it was a bit lucky because it was one of those like third place finishes go through, so most teams are going to make more teams make the knockouts than not at those Olympic things. But it's similar at this World Cup as well. I think there's 24 teams and there's a round of 16, so best third place finishers are still going to go through. So if you win a game at this World Cup, you're probably going to make the next round as long as you don't get thrashed by anyone in your other games. And the Ferns, they've got a decent chance there. They've never won a game at a World Cup before. That's box number one to tick off. And then if they do that, they're also likely to make the knockouts for the first time at a World Cup. Expecting them to go anywhere beyond that, I think, is too much. But it's possible, if you get a Abby Erceg and Aaron Naylor playing like 11 out of 10 in the round of 16, and you also get a team off their game, hold them to, take them to extra time or something like that, hold them to a clean sheet. That you never know what can happen. It's knockout football. Anything's possible. Anything's possible, as Kevin Garnett would say. But don't expect that. What we should be looking at for this Ferns: 2 major goals, win a game, make the knockouts, and if they do that, then it's been a big success because it's unprecedented for this team. It's or indeed unprecedented for any New Zealand team at a Senior World Cup. So, that's the plan. That's what they're setting up to try and achieve, and that's what right now I'm relatively confident that they're capable of doing. It's a funny group because I think we drew Netherlands again. I think we got Canada again, and I think it's Cameroon is the other team. So because of the way the draw worked was based on seeding, so seeding based on world rankings, and I'm always of the opinion that the FIFA rankings are absolute trash in basically every possible incarnation. But having said that, those are the rankings that they use, and the Ferns, for whatever reason, are ranked above where they should be. So, sweet as, we ended up in the 3rd seed out of 4, which means that we got a 4th seed in our group, which is Cameroon. All these World Cup team draws getting done at once, by the way. They're all mixing up in my head. The Tall Blacks won, the under-20s, I think there's an under-17s as well. The Ferns, because of that, they got a good, they got a winnable game in there. They got a game against a team ranked lower than them, which is, there for the take, and they just beat Norway, who are a team ranked above them. They beat Argentina, a team ranked in a similar position to what they'll see in the World Cup. So it's all doable. It's all reason to be excited, reason to get high hopes. I'm pretty pumped about this whole World Cup journey. Been writing pretty hard about it up till now, and you're going to ramp that up further as we get closer to the date, Doc. It's exciting times for women's football in Aotearoa.
Lovely jubbly. We will be back in the coming hours with another episode of the Nishcast previewing UFC 236, Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum. Until then, if you love the football Ferns, if you love your footy, keep reading all the niche case stuff from the wildcard as we try to provide all this beautiful content for you. Kia kaha.